Hello.
Oh my gosh, it's so good to see you. It's crazy because all of a sudden I was like, oh, just where is she? And you popped up.
I could hear you, but I couldn't see you. It was so fun.
So were you laughing at me behind the scene like Craig was
I
continuing?
was.
Ah, okay, good. Oh, so
That's
good to
awesome.
have you. So are we now officially live? This is the
Yes, everyone is seeing you.
welcome everyone. Oh
We'll
my
give
God, so
people a few minutes to get into the room. I know being punctual doesn't always work online, um, but we'll start in a couple minutes. If you have questions, please make sure you put a Q in front of your question so that way I can search for them. We're going to do some participation stuff while we ask Daniela questions as well. And if you have specific questions for her, again, put Q and then maybe her name. Then that way I know it's specific for her. Or if you have a specific question for either Anna or I, just put our name with next to the Q. Um, Other than that, again, welcome for being here, and we'll get started in just a minute.
I'm so happy. You
All
know
right.
what, Daniela, I haven't seen you face to face, I think since iOS Dev UK. Like since we actually saw each other in real life because we've chatted and we've done a few Twitter spaces, but they've always been audio only, so I was so
Yeah.
excited to see you because I was like, I haven't seen you in so long. I saw Craig earlier today. We had a little
Yeah.
chat. So that's why I didn't react super because I was like,
It's okay. I understand. I don't get the
Yeah,
warm
just
welcome, but it's
September, right?
cool. I'll I'll, I'll cry later.
and Craig.
Yeah, and it's Craig.
No, it wasn't like that.
Oh, it's funny.
Awesome. I'm so excited. Let's just
Can you hear me
start.
well?
Yeah, I can hear you really well. Do
Yeah.
you have what's your mic setup, by the way? Because I'm trying to level up.
I'm using what is it?
Mr. Stewart's here.
Snowball IC.
Ooh,
Yeah, it's pretty good.
nice. Nice, nice, nice. I just remembered I haven't put do not disturb on my phone. So let's do that.
That is a good.
Hi Stuart. Hi Anthony. Sorry, I shouted. I just saw people commenting in the chat.
Yeah, I'm putting some. Ooh, that's not gonna work. So let's try automatic.
I like this streaming software is really advanced. Can do anything.
Yeah. Let me fix these comments so I can start posting and giving people shout outs. Um, let's do fixed
Vancouver,
position.
BC. I've always wanted to go to Vancouver, but as far as I got is like Banff, which is amazing. But I always wanted to go all the way to Vancouver
I'd love
when I
to
was in
visit
Canada.
Vancouver one day. I heard
You're in
great things about Vancouver
nice.
and
It's
Toronto.
apparently
Yeah.
sorry. I think I okay. No, I overlapped you accidentally for a few seconds. Sorry. You said what were you saying that I didn't hear?
No, I said I was in Toronto, so Vancouver is like I think 5 hours away. It's still a lot.
You're like oh, same country. Like at the other side of. I was in. Did I tell you where I lived in Canada, Daniela, for like 3 years?
I don't think so. No.
I haven't told you. Well, guess where you might imagine like a beautiful place, surely, like, Ontario. I mean everywhere in Canada is a beautiful place, but this is a very random place to live. And I lived in near, not even in, near Regina for 3 years in Saskatchewan. It was cold.
No
That's
problem.
all. It was fun. It was
Wow.
fun. I had a great experience, but that's all I can say. It's really cold, like so cold that in the winter sometimes you know how your eyes have like a wet part to them, they would like freeze. So you'd have to blink because it was so cold that your eyes would freeze.
My.
Yeah, really.
I mean, yeah.
Let's get some shout outs out of the way real quick. We got Ed who's here. Says he's super excited to learn. We also got a Tony who came in, and I think I saw you on Twitter saying you were getting your popcorn ready, so that's a good thing. We got Everlast, who actually lives close to me in my area, which is probably like the only other iOS dev in this city. So hello and welcome. Let's see who else we have. Then we have Danijela and Anna talking about ice cream and gelato. Let's see who else is here. So Tony says it's 9 p.m. where he's at. And we have a sighting from Stuart, who's in Vancouver, BC. And Anthony Beckford, who's showing up. What's going on, Anthony? Thanks for joining. And you have condolences from Stuart Lynch. If you if you are here, I got a shout out from one of my mentees. Drake is here, so I'm glad to see at least one of you guys showed up today. Again, thank you guys for all coming, and we're gonna get started. We're gonna try to give you guys an understanding of what this podcast will be like as we go. But it's going to grow and evolve as we grow and evolve. So please don't critique us too badly. As you know, again, this is our first show and we're kind of just hanging out, having fun. But the point of this the point of this podcast is really for us to help developers in the different stages of their career. So what we want to do is help junior devs or rookies learn how to get their first job. The ones who got their first job, what do you do to keep your job? Because I think some people forget that you still have to keep the job that you get, and it's not always a fit. So you may get a job, you get it, and then you realize it's not a fit for you. So we want to try to talk about that, what you do to keep your job. I also would like the transition between veteran who wants to then become a senior engineer. We'll get into those kind of conversations. And then last but not least, we'll get some senior devs in here and have them talk about how they got into it and, you know, when they realized they wanted to become senior devs and all of that great stuff. So that's really how this podcast started. And I wanted to center it around mentees and mentorship. So I'd like to ask some of those questions. We'll ask some of those questions to Danijela today. She's actually a mentor, and help you guys who are here maybe do some things that you may not be doing right now currently in your career or in your ramp up to being in this career. So that's it. We're going to go ahead and let Anna take over and let her do her thing as far as getting introducing Danijela to everyone, and I'll let you go.
Awesome. When you say let Anna do her thing, it's always like, what the heck is she gonna do? But I will be as normal as I can. But first of all, I wanted to welcome Danijela and give a quick intro, like quick bio. You know, they do that in all the professional podcast. Introduce her officially, although I'm sure everyone here knows who she is because she is a star of our community. She's an iOS developer from Croatia, currently living in Canada, Toronto, as you heard from the start of our conversation about Canadian cities. And she's an amazing speaker, a great writer. She's a mentor. How do you say Codeco or Code? How do you even say the new name? It's harder to say than before. Codeco. Okay, yes. This is the first time I actually know how to say. So Codeco, and yeah, she's a super active member of our community. Her blog is great. I think we posted it in the episode notes, so you can find it there. You can browse and see her great articles. And yeah, we met at iOS Dev UK last September. We knew each other on Twitter before, but we hit it off there immediately because she was like this ray of sunshine and positivity, and it was my first time speaking, but she's spoken before. Swift Leads was your first time speaking, right?
Yes, that's correct. That was my first conference.
Nice. So, but you are already more seasoned then, so you're like, oh, it's gonna be okay. And I have this like memory of us having breakfast, me terrifyingly eating these sausages, and you were also scared because it was the day that you were presenting too. But eventually, it will it all went great. And yeah, since then we've become friends, and I'm so happy to have you here on our podcast as our first guest. That was a very loud clap. Um, and as we get started, I wanted to kick things off with some icebreakers, some
Okay.
fun questions to warm up and to ask. I'm gonna ask like a couple of um, just regular question. You can answer them however you like. And then I had an idea to do an either or round, but I'll start with the normal questions first.
All right.
So,
Let's go.
what app do you use the most on your phone?
What app do I use the most?
That's a hard
I
question.
think
I don't know how I would answer.
a few, but maybe like Ivory for Mastodon. Because I think I mostly use like my phone for Mastodon and Twitter here and there still.
Nice. Because there's a lot of Mastodon clients, but I haven't tried. I've tried only a couple, but I'm still looking out for the perfect one.
Yeah,
Hopefully,
I'm still looking for the perfect one as well. But
I think
using
Ivory's
Ivory, but
probably the best one right now that
yeah,
I've noticed.
Nice. Awesome. And then I wanted to ask if no, I like this one more. Are you a morning person or a night owl?
morning person. I stop functioning after 10 p.m.
Really? Like, so you just have, I think it's like, it's interesting. So the beginning of the day is where you have most of your energy and your focus, and then, nice.
Definitely. When I wake up, I'm ready to go running. Like I'm ready to start the day immediately. I'm there.
I am so, you have to teach me your secret. Is it just, do you have a special routine, or do you just miraculously?
Not really. It's just get up, drink some water, and let's go.
I love this. I'm gonna try tomorrow morning. Get up, drink some water, and let's go. Let's see how. Because I think probably the reason why I'm not a morning person is because I have a very bad morning routine. Like, get up first thing, check Twitter, check TikTok, scroll. So maybe I need to just get up, have water, and let's go.
But it also matters when you go to sleep, though. If you go to sleep like 1 a.m., like you're probably not gonna feel great in the morning.
That is true. Nice. I'm gonna ask you now the either or questions. So it's okay. They're gonna be, of course, personal preference, right? We don't want anyone in the comments being like, actually, that depends. Just whichever one you prefer. So Swift UI or UI Kit?
Swift UI.
Nice. CocoaPods
Yes.
or SPM?
Swift PM.
Nice. Programmatic UI or storyboards when you do UI Kit?
I like storyboards.
She said that like she was scared to say it. I'm with you.
Yeah,
on that,
everybody
though.
is gonna like oh, storyboards.
Judging. Yeah, I don't care. I'm a storyboard fan.
Do you know what? Out of the whole excitement, I forgot that I was supposed to ask the audience these questions. The audience was supposed to say what they preferred as well.
Yeah, so post them in the chat. The first question was I'll put it in there. You can keep going. I got you.
The next one, I just got overexcited. I think I got completely overwhelmed, and I forgot that this was like, the idea was that we ask and then everyone, say their favorite. Anyways, core data or realm or anything else. Core data versus the world.
I mean, realm is easier to work with, but core data is still the core data.
Nice. Do you know what? I would pick realm as my main. I love realm. However, on playgrounds, because I do most of my iOS work now. I don't do it on Xcode. I do it on playgrounds. But on playgrounds, you can't use realm because it's Objective-C based, and there's no Objective-C based dependencies on Playground, so no realm for me. And the last question is, on your Xcode, light mode or dark mode?
Dark mode. Dark mode
Nice.
everywhere.
Exactly.
There was
And
a
also-
switch on this when I joined, like light or dark mode. I was blinded by light, so like no.
It has to have. You know, I think my favorite like WWC is when they announced dark mode, and I was like, "This is I'm happy now. It doesn't take much." Nice. But you
Yeah.
also use Obsidian, right? Like for your note taking, that's your favorite. And you have dark mode on Obsidian. I think I saw this.
Obviously.
Obviously. We not only Daniela and I have the same, like our favorite note taking. Everyone is like in the chat, dark mode, dark mode, dark mode.
There's
My-
not many people with like. Yes, Tony's the only one. It's okay, Tony.
Ah, Tony.
You know what's funny? It's like Daniela and I, we have our same note taking software, which is Obsidian. But not only that, we have the same theme for Obsidian as well. Is the what is it called? Mado
That
Mini
is
Flow.
so funny. Mado Mini Flow, yeah. I when I saw you post it, I was like, wow. What are the chances?
I just saw the because I saw a screenshot that you tweeted, and I was like, yeah, I know that font and I know that vibe. I know 100%.
Stuart has a good point. He says when presenting, light mode is probably best in a large room, which I completely agree.
Actually, I never thought of that.
Yeah,
it probably makes more sense because it's more readable.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good tip that I'm gonna write down on Obsidian, and the next time we're presenting, I will have a look. But I think that's all for me. Pestering you with really strange questions, just to get. I think Craig,
it was fun.
You wanted to ask her about the journey, so I hand it over to you, like we are on the news or something.
So this part of the interview, what we want to do is kind of do two parts. We're going to kind of talk about your early career when you first started, and I'm going to kind of ask questions in regards to that, and then Anna's going to talk more in regards to where you currently are, mentoring and that kind of thing. And so that way, anybody who's new can get some ideas from you as far as like what you did, how you worked, that kind of stuff. So my first question for you is, when you first, how did you first become interested in iOS development, and what inspired you to pursue a career in this field?
So for iOS development, I think when I got my first MacBook sometime I was second year in my university. Got my MacBook and an iPhone as well, my first ever iPhone. And I think at the time I was dabbling a little bit with C#. Didn't really like it. I guess it's Windows as well, and I was just like enjoying my MacBook so much. And then one point I just saw, there's Xcode, and let's try to build an iOS app. And I built a very simple app with just like one button, and when you press the button, it changes an image with like a bunch of quotes. It was just like an array. It was super simple, but I downloaded it, sideloaded on my iPhone, and I saw like, this is what I made, and I'm holding it on my iPhone. I was like, wow. And I was going to everyone, like my mom, my dad, my friends. I made it. I was so proud of myself. I was like, yes, I want to do this. This is so cool.
That's awesome.
It's so awesome, and it's so touching, because I think I've had like a really similar experience. Like when you first have something physical that you've made, and you're like, what the heck? This I've written this, and magic, it's here. But I loved how you're like, I'm gonna try and make an app on Xcode. So you started from the tool, and like the curiosity took over. That's amazing. That's so fun.
I love it.
Sorry, Craig, I am interjecting.
Oh no, it's cool. That's why we're here. I have to say, I think console was probably the first thing that made me excited. Like just seeing something appear when you know, like the whole concept of like, oh, I did that, but I was excited about the console, and then obviously the first thing I got to display on the phone, and I was like you, I showed everybody, and everybody was like, okay, and it was like okay, so I need to show only people who do this because nobody is feeling me right now. So that's pretty cool. And you started in 2019, right? It started iOS.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
2019. Yeah.
Just making sure so that everyone kind of has a understanding. She's only been doing this for 4 years, and she's already a superstar. So what is your educational background for iOS? Did you self-taught? Did you take classes on school, online training? How did you start learning?
Uh, so a little bit of, I mean, a lot of bit of people already know, but I was a civil engineer before. So
Right.
I haven't, during my civil engineering studies, I have never seen programming before. Probably first time I got into touch with programming was when I was like 20, 24, 25. Uh, and yeah, that's when I kind of started doing programming. So I decided to go back to university because I already had a civil engineering degree and I got a computer science degree. During my computer science studies, I learned a lot of things, but I never really started learning programming. It's one thing that I wish I did. Just sit down and start coding. Um, so when I finished my university in 2019 was kind of when I started actually coding and doing things. I was spending like 9 to 5. I was unemployed, looking for my first job, and just uh, learning and developing my own apps. So that's kind of like when I and how I started. I do have a computer science degree. The reason being it's very, very, very cheap in Croatia to get a computer science degree. So you don't really have to think about money and all of that. And I was like, let's just get that paper. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I got it. And yeah, after that, I started learning programming. But I was also very lucky to participate in the Codeco's or Evangelic's first iOS bootcamp they had in 2020, I think. It
Mm-hmm.
was like for 3 months. And at that time, I was learning for about 4 months when I got into the bootcamp. And that bootcamp was also a pretty good thing because I had an opportunity to learn a lot of things I somehow like missed when I was learning alone. So that was pretty cool.
Nice. And when you were doing computer science, what programming language did you learn in that class? In those classes?
I was using Python, C++, a little bit of C Sharp, some PHP, even some
Man,
assembler. uh,
Please, just,
I'm,
just,
I'm,
just the right ones.
yeah, I'm gonna have a tear for you for that one. Good Lord, that's a lot of stuff for. And then you realize you didn't like any of it. Well, I mean, did you? Okay, I'm assuming so. Of the stuff you did, excluding iOS, did any of them like stand out to be like, I like the programming language, even though you didn't, even though you don't do it, or were they all kind of like they just weren't for you?
I don't know. I was like trying outside of school and university. I was playing around with C Sharp and
Mm-hmm.
just trying to make a game. I think I was using a Head First C Sharp book going through it. Just trying to like learn, but it didn't really stick with me. I don't know. I just couldn't make myself do it. Didn't really like it. Python was very fun, but I think I didn't really like Python because I think we were using it for some math class, and I just didn't really like it.
I don't blame you.
Yeah.
So you did stuff with Ray Wonderlick back then when it was called Ray Wonderlick. So I just want to make sure people know. And what the question I was going to ask is, who did you watch online as far as like, were you into videos more than blogs? Did you do articles? Like, if you had to choose, which way did you typically go when you wanted to learn something?
So what I found online, and my first probably like tutorial that I went through was Angela Yu's iOS development course, and I talked
Yep.
to a lot of people, and they all say like, "Oh, that was my first one as well." uh, yeah,
That's a
so I
good
just went
question.
through it.
What
Yeah,
was your, I guess for the audience, what was your first course that you took? Let's see how many, if anybody else did Angela's as well. I'm sorry, keep going.
yeah. No, I wanted to say the one mistake that I did, I found myself in a tutorial hell, right? Just
Yes.
watching tutorials and not really understanding what's going on. Like if I had to make my own, I was like, I don't even know like how to write a hello world. Like, what am I doing here? So yeah, that happened.
I
I
think
was
I think we all kind of go through that phase. We realize it's the wrong direction, some sooner than later. But when I'm as I mentor now, I basically don't let them do tutorial hell. It's like pick an app, let's start working on it, and then use the tutorials to guide you through your project that you build. So that's kind of the way I go. So some of like Drake, who's here, and some of the other Alandis also, who's another mentee that I work with, they haven't they experienced tutorial hell yet. At
Yeah,
least
we've all been there.
not through me. Okay, so we talked kind of like how you learn. What I think one thing you did say obviously was tutorial hell. That's one thing you did that you felt was wrong, or that kind of stopped you from growing. Where did you when like what was the first app you decided to build, um and how did you how like what was that process like for you, as knowing that you, I guess you don't have someone to like turn to, I guess. Maybe you did. Maybe you had someone in Croatia or someone that's near you that did iOS, but I'm assuming you didn't. So either way, just answer, if you had someone or you didn't. But kind of just like what was your process like for building your first app and that experience?
Yeah, so I mean, I didn't have anyone really in the iOS industry, and especially because when I graduated, right after graduating, I moved to Canada. So that was like whole new world to me and a whole new like career to me. So everything happened like at once. So that was very a lot of things. But how I started was I actually my husband is probably the person who like pushes me the most and who like tells me and it teaches me different things, and he's sort of like my mentor because he's really great at specific things. He's the reason kind of why I got into programming because he was in IT back when I was a civil engineer.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he was a manager and then he switched to being just a software engineer. He was the one who told me you have to stop looking at tutorials and you have to start coding. He was always like, I
Awesome.
want to hear you typing and smashing that keyboard. I can always hear him from a different room. Like, okay, let's make something. And then I decided to make an alarm app out of all apps out there.
cool. Nice. Do you know
That's
what?
cool.
This is crazy because I've never heard everyone's like I was expecting everyone has a note app or like there's a bunch of like very popular first apps that everyone does. I have never heard an alarm app and I think it's actually quite hard. So how was working on that because it's not easy to make an alarm app.
Definitely not easy, but I was like, let's just stop on that project and it's gonna let it start. I think I started with building a setting screen because that was like, okay, I think I can do this part.
Nice.
And then some a little bit of UI. I did not finish it. I think I was building it for like 3 or 4 months, and that's when I kind of started the boot camp, and I just couldn't find more time to work on it. And then a lot of things happened after that. I got my first job, and so I kind of stopped, didn't really finish it completely. But I've learned a lot of things. I added ringtones in there, so like playing with audio APIs. It was super
Wow.
fun. I really enjoyed building that app.
That is
That's pretty
awesome. I
cool.
think it's a great way to go about it because you have an app, you have an outcome idea that you want to do. You started with the thing that you're like, I can do this pretty easily. So like the first step to get you going and to get kick-started in the right direction, which was the setting screen, and then you just went with it. And to be honest, even if you didn't finish, we talked about this before, it doesn't matter whether you finish something or
Nope.
not, right? It's like about everything that you've learned along the way, and you've touched a bunch of different frameworks and things. I think it's amazing. It's such a, actually, now that I think about it, the alarm clock idea is a really good example for an app to build. What was the hardest part about building that, if you remember? What was the place where you're like, what on earth is going on?
When I was like trying to find out a way to display an alarm, and then I found out that you really can't do that on Apple's platform, because Apple doesn't really have an API for that for developers. So you can't like really build an alarm app unless you do some like hacky things around it to like keep it alive, in the background, and actually play the alarm. And I was like, oh man, like, I can't finish my app.
So yeah,
So
yeah, I
would
get it
it
now.
would using a reminder app be a good replacement? Like one that tells you, like, reminds you at a certain time instead of, because then you can list, okay, remind me at 2 p.m. and then you can set an alert.
Yeah, I think it could be, yeah, definitely.
Okay. Interesting.
No.
Interesting.
I'm reading some of them. Oh, sorry, I'm reading some of the comments, and I think it's really really fun to see, and I think that could be a good question. Ed says that he struggles with app ideas, so maybe we can ask you, Daniela, when you're thinking about to practice or when you're learning and developing now, how do you think of app ideas? How do you go about it usually?
Well, the reason why I started with this alarm app was because there was an alarm app already, uh, pretty much the same as the idea I had, but I wanted to make it better because I had some ideas on like, okay, I like this, but I don't really like this part, so I make a similar version but add some of my flavor to it. So I think that's
No.
like probably the best like suggestion to anyone out there. If you've tried all of the to-do apps on the App Store and you don't like some of them, or there's one you like but it should have something different, just build your own and add those stuff yourself, right?
Nice. I think it's so true, because someone told me, and maybe you agree, it's like you think, oh, someone has already done it. Yeah, but you haven't done it yet, right?
It
And
doesn't
that,
matter.
yeah,
It doesn't matter. You should, if you just to get your portfolio built, I always say just put it in test flight. Even if you don't submit it to the store, like, it's only one more step to actually click the button to submit to the store. But if you put it in test flight, you can share it with people. You can still do the same things, and it even if it's a copycat app, it doesn't matter. You should just do what you want to do, which makes you feel comfortable. For me, it was sports, and Apple was in the transition of like getting not letting people do sports apps with logos and stuff. So I was fortunate; I was able to do some. But my first job was working in sports for 8 years, and that got me the job because I did two of them, and they saw them. So they were like, "Wow, these look just like ours," and like I did all the design and everything, and it was like my dream job. Like, love sports, so so you should always just do what you're passionate about, because I think the times when you're struggling to code or get on the computer, if it's something you're passionate about, you'll think twice and go, no, no, I'm gonna go do it. But if you like do something where you're not so sure, like, I'm gonna do audio, but you're not a fan of audio, then you'll probably find an excuse to not do it. So I always say find something you really like, that you're passionate about, because when the times are like struggling, you that'll push you through, is when you're doing something you really like. So, what would you what okay, I have to ask this question. So, knowing how you grew up and how you learned iOS, what would you go tell your younger self now to do differently, as you're learning iOS?
um like before I started learning iOS, or
As you're learning it, like, if you could go back to and talk to yourself and like leave a note that it was like an anonymous note, but you left it for yourself, what would it be?
Probably would be like to start typing and coding right away. Just make an app. Like, don't watch tutorials. I mean, anyway, like when you're building your own app, like you have to, I don't know, display some data, fetch from the JSON, display it on the screen, right? You're gonna go and Google how to do that, and then you're gonna implement it. And that, I mean, it's much better way than like doing it yourself than looking someone else do it. You're not gonna learn from that. And
Agreed.
then yeah, but it's important, it's also to understand how that code works. Because a lot of people will probably like go ahead and, I don't know, take a look at Stack Overflow. Oh, okay, this is how you do it. Then copy paste it, or just, write it yourself, and then, okay, that's doing it. Let's go on to the next thing. But you don't understand how it actually works and why it works the way it works. I think that's like probably one of the most important things, understanding how it works.
Exactly.
Nice.
I
I
think
think
that's more important than anything else. Like if you only have one app, if you know everything you're doing and why you're doing it, because people will grill you on why'd you pick MVVM or why did you pick MVC, and if you can't answer those questions, then they're going to know that you pretty much just copy and pasted from a tutorial, or you just put it in there. So knowing each line of code, and Alandis, who's here, I was helping him build API, and I made him build a manager, and he couldn't tell me any of the lines. And I went through line by line. I said every single thing that it did. And then the next day I'm like, tell me what it does. And line by line, he recited everything it did. And I was like, yes,
yes,
like
Alandis.
like that's the way you go. And I'm like, do not forget it. Take those notes and remember it, because there will be people in your interviews or whatever, and they're going to ask you like specifically like why you did this or did that. And if you can't answer, it's going to look bad on you. So that's a really good thing, is to know your code, not just do the code and have it done. It's a good
I
point.
find there's
I
some type
also
of tutorial. Oh, sorry, you go, Daniela. I think there was like a second delay and I interrupted you, but you go first.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a delay, but that's okay. No, I just wanted to say I saw Stuart's comment that you do not take something that's too complex. That's also like very important. But sometimes it's you might do something that's a little bit like advanced, and it's completely okay. Oh, my sorry, my headphones are just falling out of my head.
I have that problem all the time.
I have big ears probably. So yeah, so it's you don't have to understand everything completely right away. I think that's also important.
Yeah, that is true. And I think it's what I explain to devs is understand the concept of it, but you may not understand how it works or how to do it yourself. But as long as you understand the idea, is all you really need. And then it'll click. Like everyone, it clicks differently. Like something will click in like really quickly for you, and then other things will take months. And then all of a sudden you'll be like, oh, and it'll be like mind blown moment where you're like, okay, now I get it. So
Yeah.
I think that as long as you understand it, sort of like you can explain it, you may not be able to write it yourself. I think that's an accomplishment in itself.
Mhm.
Oh, we also
Uh,
all forget things all the time. Like if I wrote something 1 year ago, it was very simple. Like I'll have to go again.
That's why you got Obsidian. There's gonna be like a bingo or something, like a shot game. Have a shot every time Anna mentions Obsidian, but I am obsessed.
that's funny.
I want to get like
I
add, oh sorry. Can I add one tip to this, because I saw
yes.
a comment by Ed that says that he one thing he really struggles with is Apple documentation, that he can't stay in the tutorial phase, but at the same time, how do you learn how to do things? Just I think Apple documentation, it's kind of like a box of chocolate. Sometimes it's like, oh my god. Especially, I love the archive documentation, because that would explain to you things in real depth. But what you can do is, instead of looking for a tutorial on how to build a certain feature, you can find a tutorial or an article or on the thing that you're looking at the documentation for. So the most important thing that helped me, I think, when I was learning, and it still helps me now, is to get as many sources as possible for the same topic. So yeah, you can read one article, but if you read, I know I also love chocolate. You can read one article, but if you read 10, you would have heard the same concept in like different flavors, and you'll have a better idea, and like you'll be able to tell it in your own words. Because I personally, I try really hard also to stick to the documentation, but there are certain things that I'm doing now that I'm like, I can't just read the documentation for this because it makes no sense. No, it doesn't make sense. Apple documentation, it's like other type of documentation for frameworks and things. I'm like, I need a bunch of context around it, and that's why sometimes maybe a tutorial isn't the best, but um, other sources are good. And I also wanted to add one more thing, that I enjoy certain tutorials. The tutorials, like Stuart's tutorials. I'm so happy that he's in the audience, uh, because he takes an argument that seems like a small concept, and then he explains it in such detail that at the end I am like, I'm a wizard at this now. And I don't remember what was the last one of his that I watched that was exactly like that, but it was just getting in depth with things was really, really fun. Sorry for interjecting once again. I need to learn how to shut up sometimes.
You're good. You're good. You're good.
Enjoy this
I think
conversation about learning and things. I think it's very helpful also for everyone, to just share the best methods, and that's all we do at the end of the day. We're just forever learners.
my favorite documentation is Paul Hudson. Yeah, because he
Yeah.
explains some stuff that I think him and Daniel Steinberg are two of the best in explaining really complex stuff. Like they find a way to make it seem so simple. And then when you finish the tutorial, you're like, okay, I'm ready. And then you're like, wait, shit. Like, okay, now I need to go back and like watch it again because I still don't understand it. But they're really good at explaining hard, complex things. And I really liked when I started. Paul wasn't around. Like YouTube really wasn't around when I was like learning Objective C, so there wasn't a ton of stuff for me to watch. But as I grew and like learning Swift and trying to like learn the nuances of it, Paul really helped me drill in some of the concepts that I wasn't quite sure what the heck what the heck they meant. Because it was definitely a transition period from going from Objective C to Swift. It was a nice transition, but it was definitely a transition period. I think we can go ahead and flip to Anna and letting you ask some of the questions about where Daniela is now. So I'll
Where
let
are you
you
now?
have
In Toronto. Sorry.
At home, it's snowing outside.
It's
nice.
snowing. Of course, because it's
Yeah,
Canada. I
of
was saying today it
course.
was 14 degrees in the UK today. Went out with a hoodie. No, I'm joking. I shouldn't rub it in. But I wanted to ask, okay, let's talk a little bit about your current, and please correct me if I'm wrong, because if I'm wrong, I'm going to look like a big dummy. But you are now mentoring, like, so you went through the boot camp for Codeco, Codeco,
Yeah.
Codeco,
Code
that one,
Echo.
Code
Code Echo.
Echo. Okay, like Echo, like what my
Yeah.
mic is probably going to do at some point. So you were you were in the Kodaka bootcamp, but now you are a mentor at Kodak. You've written lots of great articles there, and you also have mentees, right? I get this right?
So yeah, so the bootcamp is still going. I was a mentor for the first bootcamp last year,
Mhm.
July to November, I think. But I'm not mentoring like this new cohort of students.
Ah, okay.
It would be a little too much for me.
But it's good though that you've gone through the bootcamp and then you've taught the bootcamp. I think
Yeah.
that's amazing. That's so good to be in that place. So how did it feel to be on the other side of the desk, of the teacher's desk?
Yeah, it was something. It was different, definitely. I was like, okay, like this is cool. Now I'm behind the scenes, like seeing what our mentors had to go through with us. But I've enjoyed it. It was a little bit hard though, to be honest. Like doing it with full time job and everything. You're trying to like give your students as much of your time as you can, but also like trying to stay sane in the same time. But I've enjoyed it. It was awesome.
How did you learn how to because right now I have some mentees, and I really struggle to teach, like explain things that I know in my head because I've learned, as I was saying earlier, through a million sources. So now it's kind of like ingrained. But I really struggle to explain things. So how did you learn, or if you have any tips on that, because I would really appreciate them.
Yeah, I guess I don't know. Teaching is definitely completely like different. Definitely different. You have to approach it like completely different way. I don't know. I think like so uh, well, I started writing articles and like tutorials and teaching people before I got my first job. So that's also like a funny story. I guess also it's completely different, to explain things. You just I don't know, like some people have I guess a knack for the way for explaining things and for like teaching others. Um, but the first important thing is to always put yourself in their shoes. And I guess like being a mentor, and I mean I have like two and a half years of experience. I was in their shoes like 2 years ago, and I know exactly what they are going through. And so just put yourself in their shoes and try to explain as in a simple way as possible, I guess.
I think this is actually such a good shout, because of course you think like, oh, I need to say in a way that makes sense for anyone, but to kind of like, to, as you said, to put yourself in their shoes, it gives a different perspective. I wonder how I would have explained closure to Anthony. I don't know if Anthony's still here, but one time he asked me to explain closures to him, and I was like, how I mean, I know how do I explain? I don't even know if I fully know how they work at some point. But
Yeah.
I was like, how do I explain something that I have a concept in my head? So it's interesting to see it, to flip the script, instead of thinking how do I explain, but how would they understand. um I think this is actually really really solid advice. And what was I gonna ask, because now I started going on a tangent, and I do that all the time.
Days Days said you pretend you're explaining to yourself when you first start. That's the way
Ah,
It's
she
a good
did it.
one.
that would be good. That would be good. I wish I had like a rubber ducky to I have. Oh, I don't have a rubber ducky to personify old Anna that started to, well, young Anna that started to learn iOS.
I
But I have.
I have a Togepi.
Oh,
That's my
that
rubber
is
ducky.
nice.
I
That's good.
I got a question for you actually from Ed.
Sorry.
He said, "Would you guys say it's a requirement to get something on the App Store before applying for a job?"
Ugh, nah,
Test
I
Flight
wouldn't.
I
works.
I didn't have an app on the App Store, neither Test Flight, and I still got my first job. So I
Get
wouldn't
you
say
did you
it's
have
like a
something in
hard
GitHub?
requirement.
Yeah.
Yes,
Then
yes,
yeah. So
that is
worst
actually what
case
helped me get my
scenario
first
is
job.
GitHub.
Yeah.
Um, you know, the secret is like when I got my first job is probably by miracle or something, because I didn't have anything on I didn't have an app on the store. I didn't have an app on Tesla. I didn't have anything on Git. I didn't even. I mean, I barely knew, but I got supremely lucky, and I had my first job was the best people in the world, like such a good company, and I learned so much. Sometimes by baptism by fire, because I did know some iOS. But my first day there, they put me in front of the code. It's like, okay, here's the iOS app. It's a 5-year-old untouched. So like last time it was touched, it was 5 years ago. Objective
Wow.
C code base, and I was like, I think I barely know Swift, like barely, like just enough to like understand something's going on. So that was fun, but at least to be honest, I think it doesn't matter much about your what you have on your GitHub or your app store pages, or that. It just, I think everyone is different, every person is different. So when I went into the job market, I introduced myself as, I used to be a scientist, I've done a conversion course into very similar thing, into computer science. So I was currently still studying, so I said I am an academic person, so I enjoy research, I enjoy these type of things, and this is what I can bring. So depending on your
I had to post it.
I think based on what you're bringing and like what's unique about you, that's how you're gonna present your persona. Of course, if you have then a GitHub, that's gonna be an advantage to you. And if you have an app store, like an app on the App Store, that's another advantage because it shows things. But I think there's not much of a minimum requirement. I think it all depends on your unique selling point. Does it make sense to say that about? But when you're a candidate, you have to have a unique selling point. I guess that's what I would say.
Yeah, I guess for a junior developer, like, I mean, what you really have to show up is that you know the basics. I guess most companies just ask you if they give you a take home or anything, it's just gonna be here's an API display list of data. And
Exactly.
if you can show you can do that, you're good. But I think also a lot of them are looking for some like what we call soft skills, right? Which I really don't like the words. They're not soft. Very important. That's also quite important. Yeah.
Because those are the things that you can't really. I mean, you can teach someone soft skills and communication and these things, but it's a lot harder to teach that than it is to teach about, I don't know,
Technical
how to
skills,
parse
yeah.
JSON. Yeah, exactly. I guess that's good. So that's key then to work on. I think what makes you unique sounds so like Disney Channel 2006. What makes you special? What makes you you? But everyone is different. You're not just an iOS developer. Like everyone comes with their own story. So if you take your story and what has brought you to this day, and you add to it like things that you do to the side, and you show that yes, I am eager, not just eager to learn. I love to learn. Learning is my passion. I think that's probably going to be very beneficial for getting your first junior job. I think that's the willingness to learn, even more than the ability to learn. I think the willingness and the readiness to your brand. Yes, they says your brand. I think it's true in a way. Just how you present yourself and what makes your story. I think. I'm just talking about this so I don't have to remember what was the next question I was gonna ask because I will be very honest. I'm not using Obsidian, so I am lost in Notion and I cannot find my next question.
While you look, I can ask a question. I think you answered this, but let me just post it up. Is how do you know when you're ready to apply? Also, there's rarely junior iOS developer positions available. Suggestions.
So let me tell you a little story of how I applied to my first job. I think I was like 1 month into learning. I didn't even know how to parse a JSON yet. And I was applying for jobs. I did that, yes, because like when should you start applying to job? Yesterday, like start applying immediately because like if you wait, like what's the best time to wait for anything? Like don't wait, just apply. I know it's like very very intimidating, it is, but just start applying. That's what I did. I came to Canada. I was like, I'm just gonna look for who's hiring. Let's see, and just spent like I think 2 weeks applying to like hundreds of jobs. I was looking at like I don't know Indeed, LinkedIn, different sites. I wasn't on Twitter back then, and I was just applying. There were a few junior positions. I applied to a lot of senior positions as well, and I also applied directly to like company emails. So this is quite funny, but I'm just gonna say it. A lot of companies use like careers at thiscompany.com. I was
Nice.
just poking and sending or jobs at thiscompany.com.
That's epic
And
right there.
sometimes an email gets returned. I was like, okay, it's not this. Let's try another one. If it gets returned back, I was like, okay, no. And I even got a
That's
reply
awesome.
from a few of them, which was like, okay, this works. So
That's
I just sent
awesome.
like a general. I was like, look, I know you're currently not looking, but this is like my general position. If you are looking right now or you will be looking soon, get back in touch. I'm looking for my first job. That's what I did.
Wow. Do you know what, Daniela? I did not know this about you, but I admired you a lot. Now like my admiration is gone off the chart. You were
Way up
just like,
there.
I would just apply. If they could have iOS developer, I could be their iOS developer. You just went. And I like what you said also at the start, the fact that it's like, if you wait, like you're gonna be, you think you're gonna be a bit more ready, but you never feel ready to apply and to start, and to even
Yeah.
after you get the job, you'll never feel ready to start anyway. So why just wait? So this is really good point. Wow.
So
I
so
am like, I'm sorry, I'm in awe still. It's just like, yeah,
it's okay.
I applied after a month. I applied to the senior positions, and that is just
Boss moves.
our boss. That is serious. I was trying to find a good word, but that describes it. That is boss. Wow.
So I think the other way of looking at how you apply is not by the title, but the list of items that they're looking for. So if I can do 2/3 or like most of them, then I'll apply, and then I'll BS through, not BS, but I'll basically say, oh, I may not know this one or this one, but I learn fast and I can do it. Or before like I'll put a note down when I send that resume to that one, and I'll look into the other things that they had in the list. So if they do come back, I know what to say, how to reply. If you've read one document, you've read all of them for Apple. They pretty much are formatted the same, so it's not like it's really hard for you to figure something out. So I always say, if I can do maps, I can do core data. If I can do core data, I can do any of it, because they pretty much, it's not, it'll take me a couple of days. And so what I typically do is, if I really like the job, I'll start learning some of the stuff, that's the skill sets that are in the list, just in case. But then even if you don't ever get a call back, it's another thing you learn, and then it's another thing you can add to the list of stuff you do know. So don't always go by, oh, I can't do everything on the list, because then you'll never apply. So that's what I would do.
I'm like the themes that are coming across from this discussion. The fact that you have to be greedy with your learning, and you have to be bold by putting yourself out there. I think it's like such an empowering message for everyone. And I hope whoever listens to this and whoever watches this feels a bit of like, heck yeah, I can go.
Let's do it.
Enter Danijela, aka boss.
Yeah, glass of water, let's go. Like Daniela's
Yeah.
morning, glass of water, let's go.
Like a
And I
boss.
honestly, I like a lot of
Making
the
a
comments,
sticker.
by the way. People are talking about failure. People are talking about how it helps, and I think that is also such a wonderful tool. How do you handle failure, Daniela, and what are your tips on what to make the best out of it? All
I had
types of
an
failure.
interview. I had an interview once where they gave me a calculator app. So there was a lot of code in there. I just had to like write the logic, and I failed miserably. And I think I actually cried after that interview. Like it was in person interview, and I left that room, and I was like, oh my god, like I couldn't write a calculator. I think like I just couldn't understand the code that was already there. If they gave me like write a calculator completely from
From
scratch,
scratch.
yeah, sure. I mean, I probably could do it, but like I just couldn't make sense of the code that was already there. That was, and then you start sweating like, oh, you're already like set for
You
failure,
get in your
and
head.
then and
But I
that
think
was
that
I felt horrible.
that might tell you that the job isn't for you, because if you couldn't understand their code, then you probably would struggle understanding the code that you work with full time. So you should
Yeah,
probably have just looked at it as a positive, that you were able to see how they code before you got the job. I mean, it's like, it's past, but you could always think of it as in, yeah, that's not a job I want to be at, instead of it being like a negative. First
yeah.
of all, if anyone gave me a calculator app, I wouldn't want to be at that job, because that to me sounds boring. So if they would have been like, yeah, you're going to do a challenge for a calculator app, I'd have been like, yeah, I think I'm going to leave. Because I'm done. Like that's not what I want to do. Give me something interesting, yes, but if you give me a calculator, yeah, me and math, we have a mutual agreement. I don't mess with it, and it doesn't mess with me. So yeah, no, I'm good. I'm good. It would have been like, peace, see ya.
I feel like I feel you though. I've also had interviews where at the end I came out and I just cried. I think it's always hard when people put like you have to, of course you have to prove something, and you feel like you have something to prove, and for some reason or another, which is not always your fault, there's always something going on, and then you come out, you're like, wow, I didn't live up to my potential. But what did you learn from that, and how did you afterwards, you wiped your tears and you were back in boss mode, but how did you psych yourself up?
Yeah. I don't know. I guess it's usually every time, I don't know, every time I feel an interview or anything, you do feel sad and you do feel bad, and that's completely okay. It's completely okay to feel those emotions. You will. Don't hide it. Just, but it, tomorrow you just feel better. I think it just goes away. You feel bad 5 minutes, and next 5 minutes you're okay. Let's see what's next, and let's just move forward, right? I think most of us probably like work like that. One day we're sad, and then the next day we're signing an offer or something, and it's just, I'm not a complete failure.
I like
I think a really good point that you made, I'm sorry, is that you interviews are, everyone's gonna fail them. Like, it doesn't matter how experienced you are, it doesn't matter like what you don't know or do know. There's fits and there's not fits, and I think everyone should understand, especially if you're a junior dev and you haven't interviewed yet. Don't take an interview that you feel is bad, or like that's it's a knock on your skills. It's just a way for you to learn. Like, take your interview process as a learning process, because honestly, there's probably someone that may be better than you that they didn't get the job either, or there's somebody who, it's like, you just take it with a grain of salt and try not to make it so personal. But it's hard because we're all like, I'm the same way when I first started interviewing, but I like don't like interviews. So, if you don't do them a lot, you're going to always come off as like, oh, you didn't answer it well. So if you're one of those who don't like interviews, just do them constantly and just keep doing them, keep doing them. I know of someone who has a job, love their job, but like every year they do interviews just to like know what's out there, know what people are looking for, but they're not looking for a job, but they just do that to keep fresh. So just look at interviews as a way to learn and increase your skills as another subset of being a developer, and I think you'll get better at the interviews as you go on.
That's
I think one of my biggest fails in an interview, I'll say, because I went into these interviews. When there's like that diagram that people show that's like, you're a junior developer, you're like, I know nothing. And then after a while, you're like, I know everything. And then you're like, I know nothing again. I don't know what's on that diagram, but I was in the stage where I thought I knew everything. I thought I was genius. And I went in, and I think, I don't remember exactly the question, but I was so confidently wrong in the way I answered. And it was just I was so random the way it went, and they were not happy. And then they started asking me question. And I think the moment it sunk in was, they were, when they do that technique where they ask you a question and then they dig a little bit deeper, they take something that you say and they ask you, stupidly, I don't know why, I mentioned Objective-C runtime. So they said, explain Objective-C runtime.
Yeah.
What can you say? What can you say to that? And I was like, I have digged myself this grave. I have let my cockiness, I have brought myself here, because if I didn't mention Objective-C runtime, it was irrelevant as well to the question that I answered before. If I didn't mention this, no one would have asked me this, and I would have been happy. So that's what, but it's what everyone says, like, it requires, as Ibrahima says, it's like, it requires a lot of practice. Without practice, you don't improve, and without being bold and applying vigorously, you don't get to have the practice. So I think it all comes to that, to just what you said, Danijela, to being boss. I love that. I think that's the theme. That's the best lesson from the episode.
Any more questions, or do you want to get one more in?
Why don't we ask one more question from the audience? If you have anything you want to ask Daniela, we'll wait a few seconds because it's a bit delayed. We'll ask one more, and then I realized it's like an hour, and I said initially, yeah, we'll keep this like short and short and snappy.
It's our first one, so hopefully you guys bear with us as we're still trying to figure things out. But I think. Oh, so while we're waiting on a question, so my first app story is pretty funny. So when I got into the app game, I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna let anyone that wants an iOS app, I'm gonna build it for free, whatever, don't care. So I had a coworker who came up with this idea called a swear burger, and it was a burger that had layers. And what it did was it randomly created two swear words and put them on top of each other. And then like the burger would like it would animate, like it would like be like rolling through the words, and then like the toppings would go bigger depending on how much of a strength the word was. And so it was the first project I built. I would not share it with anyone. It took me like 2.5 months to build it. And then he wanted it in the store. I put it in the store, but I wouldn't share it. I'm like, why did I build this? Because now I can't share it with anyone. Because how am I going to explain this in an interview where it's a swear burger that's doing these like pretty ridiculous curse words? And I'm just like, well, at least I learned. and now it was like, but it took me probably like 2 months that now, if I look back, it'd probably take me a week or less. And it was a good experience. So for me, that was my very first like app in the store. But I never used it for anything. I was too afraid.
I give a challenge to anyone watching this stream. I challenge you all to come up with your version of the swear burger and then tweet it at Craig. I need to see this. We have gotten like a lot of questions in the meantime, and they're all really good questions.
Yes,
Uh,
I got one up.
I don't know which one we can ask.
I got one up already.
Oh, okay.
You see it?
There we go. Problem solved.
What was your favorite app to build, Daniela?
What's my favorite app that I've built? I haven't built like many apps. I mean, while I was learning, I did build like a weather app, a to-do app, and like a chat app with Firebase. That was fun. But
The
my
go-tos.
favorite one, yeah. But I think I quite enjoy building the alarm app. Honestly, that
Nice.
that that I think that was probably like the
I
best. I do
challenge
enjoy.
someone to do an alarm app now and tag Daniela and me and Anna, please. Please. GitHub.
Yes,
I
the
want a GitHub page.
yeah, that was. But I am building an app right now because I haven't. I had to stop like in 2 3 months because I was very busy. It's like finding time to do side projects. But I'm building like a macronutrient tracking app. It's something that
Oh,
I
nice.
need. So yeah, I think best app
Awesome.
ideas comes from something that you need.
It
Yeah.
is. And I have one that I haven't been able to get to. And I know it's not in the store. And it's like I've been itching to do it, but I don't have time.
Yeah, that's
Nice.
the word.
Here's another one. Stuart asked, what's next for you?
What's next for me?
We can put some inspirational music here.
I don't know, like what I've been speaking at a lot of conferences, but I was like thinking maybe to like slow down a little bit. It takes a lot of time
It
to do
does.
a talk, and while I'm working on the talk, I could be learning some different things, building apps. It's just you have only so many hours in a day. So yeah, what I would like to focus on is like to build an app and have it on the app store. I would really love to do that. And yeah, I think probably that's like the next thing for me.
Nice.
Another question, most challenging library or integration?
Most challenging library.
I don't know how I would answer this. Oh, I know how
I think maybe something that I find challenging like right now is at work we have a modularized app, like different modules for networking, styling, everything, and we use Swinject for like dependency injections. And I don't know why, but I find that so confusing and still trying to like wrap my head around it.
I feel like
Awesome.
So maybe
dependency
that's the
injection is
one.
something. Sorry?
So no, I just said so maybe that would be the answer.
But to be honest, it's like I feel like dependency injection is one of those things that we have like the world has overcomplicated, and now there's like there's libraries and there's frameworks and there's all these things. So it's, I mean, I'm pretty sure I would struggle with that as well. By the way, we said one more question. We asked three more, but it's okay
Yeah,
because
yeah, it's fun. And we'll give you one more here. So technologies to focus on. I personally say JSON, learn how to utilize APIs and core data. Others was the question.
So
What should you
definitely
focus on?
JSON. Definitely
Yep.
JSON, like learn how to parse a JSON and display it in a list or just print it. That's like probably the basic skill. Something else. So I do love Swift UI. I really love it, but you have to know UI kit.
You do.
It's 99% of companies still use UI kit, and it's just
Exactly.
when you know UI kit, you have a big advantage in job interviews. Not all companies. I'm lucky that my current company we use Swift UI. I've been using Swift UI for a year, and that's been very exciting. But you have to learn UI kit. So I think that's probably the second thing you have to learn, even
nice.
today.
Nice, good. And are you gonna make your app, Daniela, in UI kit or in Swift UI?
Swift UI all the way.
It's gonna
Nice.
be, I am really excited to see that. I think now we don't have any time for any more question.
No.
I have to be the evil news anchor this time. Now we're going back to the studio. No, I'm joking. But yeah, thank you so much for answering our questions. Thank you for answering the audience's questions. It has been amazing to have you here. And I feel like I come out of this like I've probably gained the most because now I'm gonna be boss. I'm gonna bring back what I've learned today, and I hope, like, I'm itching to just start to use it in my day-to-day life. So thank you, Daniela, because that, I think, was something I know I needed to hear. I hope everyone else also feels the same, because it's a big, like, spur of energy and excitement. So thank you so much for that, personally as well, not just on behalf of everyone, but thank you.
Yeah, be the boss. That's
Have a glass of
I
water, let's go.
just not while you're coding. Um, but yeah, my sentiments are the same. Thank you for being here. Thanks for being the first person that we got to interview and talk to and just chat about what we love. I know all of us are passionate about iOS, helping and doing and teaching, and it's great to just be able to sit here and help all levels of iOS, not just advanced users. So hopefully it'll grow and we'll be able to get you back on in the like anniversary episode or something.
ooh yes, I'd love that. Thank you so much for having
Awesome.
me. It was
You got
Yeah.
super
it.
fun.
And shout out and thank
Well,
you to everyone in the audience as well. Hi, Brahma, by the way. I saw you earlier. I didn't say hi, but it's so good to see you here. So, hi to everyone, and thank you so much for everyone who tuned in. It's been super fun.
yes, and everyone, we will see you next week. Next week, we have a junior dev who's going to come on and talk about her experience. She is learning iOS, and she's going to kind of break down what she's been doing. We're going to talk about what it's like to be a single mom learning how to code, as well, while juggling a full time job. So she's a guest next week, and then the following week we're going to have Stuart on. So please just keep subscribe to the channel, and keep follow all of us on Twitter, but definitely Daniela for one. Get her on your Twitter first because that's how you become a boss. And then if you decide to, you can follow me or Anna else. But we we would like we will start tweeting out more and more people who are going to be on the show. We're planning to do 12 shows and then stop, and then 12 more shows. So, and every show is going to rotate between senior, juniors, regular devs. So we're going to have a range. It's not going to just be all senior engineers and people who have like 25 years experience. We want to get experience from all perspectives and all views and from all nationalities and races and genders. So please, if you're interested in being on the show, tweet at me at the dev me. Anna and Daniela's info is in the description. Her website's in the description. And again, thank you very much for you all being here.
Thank you, and thank you so much, Danijela, once again.
Yeah.
All right,
Thank
I'm
both
hitting
of
that
you.
finish button, and this will be on the all podcast, obviously coming soon. And bye.